Hello everyone and welcome to another very exciting game from round 4 of the FTX Crypto Cup. It is round 4, or rather game 4, of the match Levon Aronian versus Praggnanandhaa, and Levon lost in game 3, so now he needs a win to bounce back into the match, and they will repeat a variation they played in game 2, which is a really wild one. Levon had a winning position. Pragg tried to sacrifice a bishop on g3, but even if you haven't seen game 2, I will talk about it in this game as it's quite similar. But much different. So let's dive straight into it. Can Levon bounce back? He opens again with c4. He goes for the English opening, and Pragg continues with e5. He had a very risky position, but of course after game 2 he checked with the engine and during break time, and he found what he messed up. So obviously he improved on that. But let's see how he does. Knight to c3. We have knight to f6 and knight to f3. Still the English opening, 3 knights are developed, and now e4, chasing away the knight. Knight to g5, and now pawn to c6. We have knight captures on e4, grabbing that pawn. Knight captures, and now pawn to d5. So it's a pawn sacrifice, but black is getting a whole lot of development, and I think after these two games between Levon and Pragg, it will become very popular. I think Adiban even played it in the Olympiad. So c captures on d5, c captures, knight to g3, and now h5. Very crude idea, but it seems like it is working. So here pawn to e3, h4, and now knight back to e2. We have knight to c6 by Pragg, and pawn to d4. And they are still repeating everything they played in game 2 of their match. Queen to f6, and now in the first game, Levon played knight to c3, but here he deviates and goes bishop to d2. So it is now, as of move 12, that we have a completely new game. Pragg continues with bishop to d6, as he did in game 2. We have pawn to a3, and now bishop to f5. The bishop's nicely developed, so you can see that this is definitely very active play from black, and you get it for the price of only 1 pawn. Rook to c1 by Levon, and now rook to d8. We have knight to c3, and now queen to g6, hindering the development of the light square bishop, putting pressure on the g2 pawn, and also preparing pawn to h3. So queen f3, and again pawn to h3, saying okay, do maybe want to capture here, but if you capture, then your entire pawn structure is messed up. For example, captures, black will play something like queen to e6, and then white really doesn't know what to do with the king. You're not castling queen side, you're not castling king side, your king is in the center of the board, so it's not the greatest of positions. Also knight captures on d4, already a threat, so not the best. So here g3, Levon pushes the pawn like he did in game 2, and now bishop to g4, attacking the queen and basically forcing Levon to play queen captures on d5 and put the queen in front of the rook, but there is nothing better. And this is kind of what Levon did in game 2, but in game 2 I believe the pawn was still on g2. But here the point is, you don't have any good discoveries. Let's say you play bishop captures on g3. Yes, you open up a discovery to the white queen, but it's not a problem. Queen e4 check, and you just force a queen trade. Captures. Now the bishop is hanging. Once the bishop moves back, we're going to play bishop to e2, and it's a much better position for white. And now the problem is, let's say you go play something, knight to e7, rook c to g1, you have problems. You have problems defending the b7 pawn, you have problems defending the g7 pawn, so it's just a very tricky position to play. Plus you're down a pawn, and white will be winning this in the long run. So instead we have castles here. Pragg just castles to safety. Now still Levon has to worry about his queen, so he just moves the queen. Queen to b5. We have rook f to e8, aligning the rook with the king here, so now you have to be careful. Knight captures on d4 might be an option, so bishop to e2. And now it seems like knight captures on d4 is no longer an option, since of course the knight can be captured. The bishop is now preventing the rook from delivering check, but this is exactly what Pragg plays. He plays knight captures on d4, e captures, and now the spectacular rook captures on e2. You have to capture with the knight, otherwise you're gonna lose the queen. So knight captures on e2, and now queen to e4. This is what Pragg found. Now the idea is that the rook on h1 is hanging, and how do you defend this? If you come to the material now, Levon is up a full rook, and I mean, that's of course completely winning if if he could castle to safety. Of course, he cannot castle. If he castles, he just gets checkmated, so that's not an option. The problem is you can't really play a move like rook to g1. It's just dead loss for Levon, because the queen is needed on this diagonal to defend the knight, and a simple a6 wins the game for Pragg here. You have to move the queen somewhere. c4 is the only square that keeps an eye on the knight, but now b5, and that's it. Queen has to move, and of course we deliver checkmate. So Levon really needs to figure out what to play after Pragg plays this queen to e4 move, and the best way to defend is bishop to e3. But Levon plays bishop to g5, which is similar, but not quite the same, as now the e file is still open. With the bishop on e3, there's still one more piece in front, in between the queen and the white king. But now there is a move that Pragg can play that gives him a winning position, but it's not an easy one to find. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find the only winning idea for Pragg while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this incredible trick in the position. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to e8. And now you see what is happening. So we moved the rook away from d8 where the bishop was attacking it, because if you just went for queen captures on h1, which of course is possible, then king d2. Now your queen is hanging. You're gonna play queen captures on h2. Now bishop captures on d8. And now Pragg would lose this bishop. Let's say queen captures on f2. But now you have this, sorry, not that, queen to e8 with check. And once the king moves, there's queen to e4 with check. And now the bishop will hang, otherwise you have to defend it, otherwise it will hang. So f5 blocking and defending the bishop, and now queen e3 offers a queen trade, and now every move loses for Pragg here except queen to g2. Now would this be found, would this be played? I believe most likely, but still it looks like it's completely winning for black, but you know, engines are like that. They just say, yeah, everything is perfectly fine, you can play this. But Pragg doesn't go for this, even though it seems to be completely winning. Instead, after this bishop to g5 move, rook to e8. Incredible precision by Pragg. And now you're just threatening to win material here. Just queen captures on e2. There's a triple attack on the knight, and also queen captures on h1 now is a possibility. But Levon goes back, bishop to e3, and now he asks, are you still interested in capturing this rook? And still, it's not the greatest of moves, because if queen captures now, king d2 and the queen back to e4, it seems like you've just repeated, you've defended your knight as the queen, the rook as the queen is attacking the rook. But now knight c3, and all of a sudden white is back in the game. There's no clear way of how to continue. You can't go back and go after the h2 pawn because the rook is hanging. So here Levon would come back into the game. But Pragg, of course, plays the strongest pawn to a6. Beautiful stuff. Queen to a4, now pawn to b5, and now the queen is cut off from the defense of the knight, and also from attacking the rook on e8. So queen captures on a6, and now finally Pragg plays queen captures on h2. Which, incredible as this game is not the strongest move. So it seems like this rook can never be captured. I will just show you because it's a lot of fun. Queen f3 wins here for black, as it threatens checkmate, and there's no good way to defend it. If you play queen captures on b5 to defend like this, then there's this very nasty rook captures on e3 move. And after f captures, now you play queen captures on h1, and after king to d2, now queen captures on h2, and now you have nothing to worry about. You don't have this problem of your rook hanging on e8, and you have a pass pawn on h2. You're just going to move the queen. White really doesn't have all that many options. Also, the knight here is in a bit of a pickle, so the queen can't really go anywhere, and you're just going to win this very easily. But there is a better defense after queen to f3. You could play rook to c2. This also defends against checkmate, but now there's this incredible bishop captures on g3, the move that Pragg played in game 2 and wanted to play in game 4. But never got around to it, because now, of course, you cannot capture. If you capture, then the bishop is no longer defended, and then everything just opens up. But if h captures, then we play queen captures on h1, king to d2, now h2, and now, of course, you will move your queen, and then queen the h pawn. Even if rook c1, we happily capture it. Queen captures, knight captures, h1 queen, and now you're just up material. You have a rook against a knight, and of course, a completely winning position. You can attack. The king is wide open on d2. So queen queen f3, of course, is winning, but Pragg was extremely low on time here. He had like 30 seconds on the clock, and Levon had like 10 minutes on the clock. So Pragg played queen captures on h1, king to d2, and now queen to f3, again putting pressure on the knight. So rook to e1, defending, queen to f6, Pragg goes back with the queen, and now knight to c3. And this is what we've discussed. If you take your time to pick up the rook to bring the queen back into the game, you know, you might just allow Levon back into the game. And knight to c3 is a very important move here. If you don't play this, let's say bishop b4 check, and off goes the queen from a6. So knight to c3, blocking any checks from the dark square bishop, and now we have queen to e6 by Pragg. Queen to c6 now, putting pressure on the rook now if the queen ever moves, and now rook to c8, attacking the queen. Queen to d5, offering a trade of queens, and now Pragg can't really trade queens. If he trades, he allows Levon back into the game, and he is up a pawn, so it will be Levon who will be pushing for the win. So Pragg plays none other than pawn to b4. Incredible stuff. Now you can't trade queens because b captures on c3 comes with check, so we win material here. So a captures on b4, and now Pragg just moves the queen to f6, but at least now he has opened up the a file that can be used for attack. So here, pawn to b5, Levon starts advancing his newly created passed pawn. Bishop to b4 now. We have rook to a1, now not allowing Pragg to utilize the a file, and now bishop to f3. Also here, if rook to a8 is played, if the rooks get traded off, of course Pragg has nothing more to look for in this game. So bishop f3, attacking the queen, keeping an eye on the a8 square, and queen to b3 now. Attacking the bishop here, bishop back all the way to f8. Now, even if the rook moves, the rook to a8 at least will not come with check. So b6, Levon continues advancing his passed pawn, and it seems like Levon is about to beat Pragg and get back into the match. So bishop to b7, stopping the passed pawn, and now pawn to d5. Now Levon starts advancing his other pawn. We have bishop to c5, and here Levon seems to have started playing overly defensive. Here rook to a4, rook to a7 are very, very active moves. Even shifting the king over to e2 are possible moves. But even though Levon had like 10 minutes on the clock, he wanted to beat Pragg on time, as Pragg had 30 seconds. And he wanted really Pragg to think fast and not have enough time to, you know, calculate everything. But this seems to have gone to Pragg's favor, as he calculates everything. So rook to e1, and now comes just a nice bishop captures on e3. F captures on e3. Levon even gets an improved pawn structure in the center. Now if this pawn starts marching forward, it's going to be very good for him. But now comes bishop to a6. And now, all of a sudden, it's not so clear. Once queen f2 check comes, the e2 square is covered. The rook controlling the c file. This king might get checkmated. And okay, like I said, Levon had plenty of time. He could have calculated that he's perfectly fine. But he played queen to c2, and now he just blunders the b6 pawn. Incredible stuff. So Pragg very happily captures it, and now we have king to c1. But now his position went from winning to, well, maybe not considerably worse, but definitely not very enjoyable. Bishop to c4, now Pragg stops pawn to b3. If b3 and king c2, then white is still okay, but here Pragg just wants to play bishop to b3, control this diagonal, and then maybe put a rook on a8, play rook to a1, so there are options here for black. So rook to d1, Levon again plays a couple of worst moves in a row. This is just incredible. Probably playing against Pragg's time, but Pragg is just outplaying him, even though they're playing extremely fast. So bishop to b3, now this just wins material for Pragg. Queen to f2, and now queen to a5 even. Not grabbing material, just preparing rook captures on c3. This is beautiful stuff. Levon plays king to d2. He defends against this idea, but now Pragg just plays rook captures on c3. And he was in this position on move 44 that Levon Aronian resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. You just lost a piece, and after you recapture, the problem is there's queen captures on d5 check, and now the rook will be captured and the rook will be defended. For example, king c1, queen captures on d1 check, king to b2, now just bishop a4, and of course you're up a full piece. There's no way for white to play this. So brilliant stuff by Pragg. Levon again got a completely winning position against Pragg in this variation like he did in game 2, but it would seem that this variation of the English, or rather this counter on the English defense, is so incredible. This E4 idea and just after knight g5 sacrificing this pawn is so strong that even a super brilliant and creative player like Levon Aronian couldn't find his way around this against Pragg. Like I said, with 10 minutes on the clock against Pragg's 30 seconds, this was incredible to watch. So if you have time, do check out the live feed as well. But I believe that this with d5, that this variation, although it's a known one, will become very popular in online chess now. So if you face the English, make sure to try it out, and if it goes your way, you can enjoy it more. So yeah, that's the game and the match. Hope you guys enjoyed it. First 2 games ended in a draw, then Pragg just okay, game 3 was complete annihilation, but game 4 again, like I said, Levon got a winning advantage, and then Pragg just won. And these are the standings after this round. So you can see that Magnus and Pragg are still leading the tournament. Both of them are on 100%, both of them on 12 points. They have won all 4 of their matches, followed by Alireza with 8, Levon with 5, Jan-Krzysztof Duda and Anish Giri with 4, Liem with 3, and Hans Niemann with 0 points still. But there are still 2 more rounds to go. Maybe it will be his day. So yeah, once again, hope you guys enjoyed it, and that you maybe found a favorite weapon of your own against the English opening. I would like to thank Johan Claesson, Raymond Raphael, Buntiak Pyang, Amar Ashur, and Michael Sakarias for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the FTX Crypto Cup until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.